The clock on the wall showed 11:47 p.m. Maria wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and looked around the enormous concert hall. Every single seat was empty now. The fancy people in their expensive clothes had all gone home hours ago. The musicians had packed up their instruments. Even the staff members who worked at the ticket counters had left for the night. It was just her now. Her and the silence. Maria pushed her cleaning cart slowly down the aisle, the wheels squeaking softly against the polished floor. She had been working at the Steinway Concert Hall in Manhattan for 3 years now. 3 years of mopping floors, dusting seats, and making sure everything sparkled for the next day's performance. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid the bills. At 52 years old, she had learned that life was more about surviving than dreaming. Her hands hurt tonight. They always hurt by this time, after scrubbing bathrooms and polishing brass railings for 8 hours straight. She flexed her fingers as she walked, trying to work out the stiffness. These weren't the hands of a young woman anymore. The skin was rough, marked by years of hard work. Small scars dotted her knuckles from countless small accidents with cleaning supplies and sharp edges. But once upon a time, these hands had created something beautiful. Maria shook her head, pushing the thought away. That was a long time ago. A different life. A different version of herself that didn't exist anymore. She climbed the steps onto the stage, her worn sneakers barely making a sound. This was always her favorite part of the cleaning routine, even though it made her heart ache a little. The stage felt magical, even empty. She could still feel the energy from tonight's performance hanging in the air. The audience had clapped so loudly for the pianist who performed here earlier. She had heard it from the hallway where she was cleaning the restrooms. In the center of the stage sat the grand piano. It was massive and beautiful. Its black surface so shiny she could see her reflection in it. Maria approached it carefully, pulling out her special microfiber cloth. The piano always needed to be dusted last, treated with extra care. It was the most expensive item in the entire building, probably worth more than she would earn in 10 years. As she gently wiped down the smooth surface, something caught her eye. Sheet music. Someone had left it sitting on the music stand, forgotten in the rush to leave. Maria picked it up carefully, squinting at the notes in the dim stage lighting. Chopin. Nocturne in E-flat major, Opus 9, number 2. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew this piece. She knew every single note of it. Her fingers tingled with the memory of playing it over and over, until it became part of her soul. That was back in Manila, back when she was a student at the Philippine High School for the Arts. Back when music wasn't just something she listened to while cleaning, but something she lived and breathed. Maria looked around the empty hall nervously. Everyone was gone. The building was completely silent except for the hum of the heating system. Her supervisor had already left, trusting her to lock up when she finished. She was completely alone. Her heart started beating faster. She shouldn't. It would be wrong. The piano wasn't for people like her. It was for the professionals, the trained musicians who performed on this stage for audiences who paid hundreds of dollars per ticket. She was just the cleaning lady. She had no business even thinking about touching those keys. But her hands were already moving, setting down the cleaning cloth, pulling out the piano bench. Just for a minute, she told herself. Just to remember what it felt like. Maria sat down slowly, her worn uniform looking completely out of place against the elegant instrument. She positioned her feet on the pedals, feeling how natural it still felt despite all the years away. Her fingers hovered over the keys, trembling slightly. Not from nervousness this time, but from anticipation. She placed her fingers on the cool ivory keys and pressed down gently. The sound that came out was pure and clear, echoing through the empty hall like a bell. Maria closed her eyes, and suddenly she wasn't a 52-year-old cleaning lady anymore. She was 18 again, sitting in her small practice room at the conservatory, losing herself in the music while Manila's traffic noise buzzed outside the window. She began to play the nocturne. The notes flowed from her fingers like water, like they had been waiting all these years to come out. Her rough, tired hands moved across the keys with surprising grace. Yes, she was a little rusty. Yes, she missed a note here and there. But the emotion was still there. The feeling she poured into every phrase was real and raw and honest. The melody rose and fell, soft and dreamy, filling the massive concert hall. In this moment, Maria forgot about her aching back. She forgot about the bills waiting at home. She forgot about the disappointment of abandoned dreams. There was only the music, speaking the language her heart had never forgotten. She didn't know that high up in the control room, the night security guard had arrived for his shift. His name was Miguel, and he had worked there for 5 years. He had seen Maria cleaning countless times, always quiet, always efficient, keeping to herself. Miguel had pulled up the security camera feeds on the monitors, doing his usual check to make sure the building was secure. That's when he saw her. The cleaning lady sitting at the grand piano playing like her life depended on it. His jaw dropped. Miguel leaned closer to the screen, turning up the volume on the audio feed. The music coming through the speakers was incredible. It wasn't just technically good. It had soul. It had depth. This wasn't someone who had taken a few piano lessons. This was someone who truly understood music. Without really thinking about it, Miguel pulled out his phone. He pointed it at the monitor showing Maria on stage and hit record. Something told him this was special. This was a moment that deserved to be captured. Down on the stage, Maria played the final notes of the nocturne, letting them fade away slowly into silence. She sat there for a moment, her eyes still closed, her heart full of a bittersweet mixture of joy and sadness. Joy because the music was still inside her after all these years. Sadness because this was all she could have. A few stolen minutes in an empty concert hall when nobody was watching. She opened her eyes and looked out at all the empty seats. For just a second, she let herself imagine them filled with people. People who had come to hear her play. People who appreciated the music the way she did. But that was a fantasy. A silly dream for a woman who needed to finish cleaning and catch the last subway home. Maria stood up carefully, pushing the bench back into place. She picked up her cleaning cloth and gave the piano one final gentle polish, erasing any trace that she had been there. She folded the sheet music neatly and left it where she had found it, as she pushed her cart off stage and continued with the rest of her cleaning duties. Maria had no idea that up in the control room, Miguel was staring at his phone screen with wide eyes. He had just watched the entire video he recorded. It was nearly 4 minutes long, and it was absolutely beautiful. His thumb hovered over the TikTok app. The world needed to see this. Miguel sat in the security control room, staring at his phone screen. His finger kept hovering over the share button, then pulling back. Should he really post this? Would Maria be angry? Would he get in trouble for recording the security footage? But something about that video felt important. Really important. At 2:15 in the morning, he finally made his decision. He uploaded the video to TikTok with a simple caption. Our cleaning lady is secretly a piano genius. This is real. He added a few hashtags, put his phone down, and tried to focus on his actual job of monitoring the building. By the time his shift ended at 6 a.m., the video had 3,000 views. Miguel smiled. That was pretty good for a random video posted in the middle of the night. He had no idea what was about to happen. By 9 a.m., the video had 50,000 views. By noon, it had exploded to 2 million. The comment section was going absolutely crazy. People from all over the world were watching Maria play that piano, and they couldn't believe what they were hearing. This gave me literal chills. She plays better than half the professionals I've seen in concert. Somebody please find this woman and give her a record deal. I'm a music teacher, and this brought tears to my eyes. Real talent never dies. The video kept climbing. 5 million views. 10 million. Music students were sharing it. Professional pianists were sharing it. Even people who didn't care about classical music were sharing it, because there was something about the story that touched everyone. A cleaning lady, alone in an empty concert hall, playing her heart out when she thought nobody was watching. Meanwhile, Maria woke up that morning in her small apartment in Queens with absolutely no idea that her life was changing. She made coffee, got her daughter ready for school, and started getting ready for another day of work. Her phone was old and slow, one of those cheap models that could barely handle basic calls and texts. She didn't have TikTok. She didn't have Instagram. Social media wasn't really her world. Her daughter, Rosa, was scrolling through her phone at breakfast when she suddenly gasped. Mom, do you know anyone who works at that fancy concert hall where you clean? Why would I know anyone there? Maria asked, confused. I just clean. I keep to myself. Rosa's hands were shaking as she looked at her phone. Mom, this video. It has like millions of views. Is this you? She turned her phone around and Maria's heart stopped. There she was on her daughter's screen sitting at the grand piano, playing Chopin. The view count kept climbing even as they watched. 12.3 million views. Maria's coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the kitchen floor. Neither of them moved to clean it up. They just stared at the phone in complete shock. How did... Maria couldn't even finish the sentence. Her mind was racing. Who recorded this? How was it online? What did this mean? Her daughter started squealing, jumping up and down. Mom, you're viral. You're actually going viral. Everyone is talking about you. But Maria felt sick to her stomach. This wasn't exciting. This was terrifying. She had been playing that piano without permission. What if she got fired? What if the concert hall sued her for touching their expensive instrument? She was just a cleaning lady. She wasn't supposed to be touching anything except her cleaning supplies. Rosa kept scrolling through the comments, reading them out loud. Most of them were positive, beautiful even, but Maria couldn't hear them over the panic in her own head. Then Rosa stopped scrolling. Her eyes went wide. Mom, you need to see this. She turned the phone around again and Maria saw a blue checkmark next to a name. Alexander Volkov, the famous pianist. The one who had performed at the hall just last week. Maria had cleaned up after his concert. His tweet was short, but it had already been shared thousands of times. Interesting. Would love to meet this cleaning lady pianist. Let's see if the viral moment holds up in person. The comments under his tweet were divided. Some people thought it was sweet that a famous musician wanted to meet Maria. Others thought he was being condescending, like he was looking down on her. Arguments were breaking out all over social media about whether Volkov was being supportive or snobbish. Maria's phone, her old reliable phone that barely worked, suddenly started ringing. Then it rang again, and again. Numbers she didn't recognize. Her daughter's phone was buzzing nonstop with messages from friends, cousins, people they hadn't talked to in years. The concert hall called. Maria's hand shook as she answered. She was sure they were calling to fire her. Instead, the manager sounded excited, almost too excited. Maria, we've been trying to reach you. Have you seen the video? This is incredible publicity for the hall. We'd like to arrange something special. Alexander Volkov is performing here next week, and he wants to meet you. Would you be willing to come in during his rehearsal? Maria didn't know what to say. Her English suddenly felt shaky, even though she had been speaking it for 20 years. I'm sorry for playing the piano. I shouldn't have touched it. I can pay if I damaged anything. The manager laughed. Damaged? Maria, you've given us the best publicity we've had in years. Everyone is talking about Steinway Hall now. Please, we want to arrange this meeting. The media is already asking about you. The media. That word made Maria feel even more sick. She wanted to say no. She wanted to hide. But Rosa was looking at her with such hope and excitement that she couldn't bring herself to refuse. Okay, Maria whispered. I'll come. Over the next few days, Maria's life became completely surreal. Reporters were trying to track her down. The video hit 50 million views. News articles were being written about her. The cleaning lady who stunned the internet. Hidden talent piano prodigy works as janitor. Viral video shows that dreams never die. Some articles dug into her background. They found out she had studied music in the Philippines. They interviewed her old teachers who remembered her as a talented student. One of her former instructors cried on camera, saying she always wondered what happened to Maria. The attention was overwhelming. Maria had spent 20 years being invisible, and now everyone wanted to look at her. She didn't know how to handle it. She was just a regular person. She cleaned toilets for a living. She took the subway home. She worried about paying rent. This kind of attention wasn't meant for people like her, but there was no stopping it now. The meeting with Alexander Volkov was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. The concert hall warned her that media would be present. They wanted to document the moment. They were calling it the meeting between two worlds of music. Maria barely slept the night before. She kept thinking about Volkov's tweet. Let's see if the viral moment holds up in person. It sounded like a challenge. Like he didn't really believe she was any good, and he wanted to expose her as a fraud. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was just a fluke. Maybe her performance only seemed good, because people weren't expecting anything from a cleaning lady. If she sat down at that piano again, maybe everyone would realize she was just ordinary. Just someone who used to play a long time ago. Thursday morning arrived too quickly. Rosa helped her pick out something to wear. Not her cleaning uniform, but Maria didn't own anything fancy. They settled on a simple blue dress that she usually wore to church. It would have to do. As they took the subway into Manhattan, Rosa held her hand tight. "Mom, you're going to be amazing. Just play like you did that night. Don't think about the cameras or that famous guy. Just play for yourself like always." Maria nodded, but her hands were sweating. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. When they arrived at the concert hall, there was a crowd outside. Reporters with cameras, people holding phones. Some of them had printed signs saying, "We love you, Maria," and "Play for us." Someone recognized her from the video. Then everyone did. Suddenly people were shouting her name, asking for photos, asking questions in English and Spanish and languages she didn't even recognize. Security guards had to help her get through the crowd and into the building. Inside, the lobby was filled with more cameras, more lights, more people than she had ever seen outside of an actual performance, and there, standing near the doors to the main hall, was Alexander Volkov himself. He was tall, dressed in an expensive-looking black suit. His arms were crossed over his chest. His face showed no emotion at all. He was waiting for her. Maria's legs felt weak as she walked toward Alexander Volkov. Every step echoed in her mind louder than it should. She was intensely aware of the cameras pointing at her, the bright lights making her squint, the whispered conversations happening all around her. This was the same lobby she mopped every night, but right now it felt like a completely different universe. Volkov didn't smile. He didn't move. He just watched her approach with those intense dark eyes, his expression unreadable. Up close, he looked even more intimidating than he did in his performance photos. There was something about the way he stood, perfectly straight, perfectly composed, that made Maria feel small. "You are Maria," he said. It wasn't a question. His accent was thick, Russian, each word carefully pronounced. "Yes, sir," Maria managed to say. Her voice came out quieter than she intended. "I am told you clean this building." "Yes, sir. 3 years now." Volkov nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. The silence stretched out uncomfortably. Maria didn't know where to look. The cameras were still filming everything. She could feel dozens of eyes on her, waiting to see what would happen next. Finally, Volkov gestured toward the doors leading to the main concert hall. "Come, let us see what everyone is talking about." They walked through the doors and Maria's breath caught. The concert hall looked different during the day. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, making everything look almost magical. But it was also filled with people. Reporters sat in the front rows. Camera operators positioned themselves at different angles. The concert hall staff stood along the sides. Even some of the other cleaning staff were there, including Miguel, who gave her an encouraging wave. Maria felt like she might throw up. The grand piano sat in the center of the stage, exactly where it always was. But walking toward it now, with all these people watching, felt nothing like that quiet night when she had been alone. Volkov climbed the stage steps and gestured toward the piano bench. His face still showed no emotion. "Please," he said, "show me what the internet is so excited about." There was something in his tone that Maria didn't like. It wasn't mean exactly, but it wasn't kind either. It was the tone of someone who had already made up their mind and was just going through the motions. He didn't believe she was actually good. He thought she was a fluke, a lucky accident caught on camera. Maria's hands were shaking as she sat down at the piano. She could hear her own breathing, fast and shallow. This was a mistake. She shouldn't have come. What was she thinking? She was a cleaning lady who used to play piano 20 years ago. This man was one of the greatest pianists in the world. He had performed in every major concert hall on the planet. He had won awards she couldn't even pronounce. She looked down at the keys and they seemed to blur in front of her eyes. From somewhere in the audience, she heard Rosa's voice. "You got this, Mom." Maria closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Then another. She thought about that night when she had been alone. Nobody watching. Nobody judging. Just her and the music, reconnecting after so many years apart. She opened her eyes and placed her fingers on the keys. For a moment, nothing happened. Her mind went blank. She couldn't remember what she was supposed to play. The pressure was too much. She was going to embarrass herself in front of all these people. Then something shifted inside her. A quiet voice in her head speaking in her mother's Tagalog. The music is still yours. Nobody can take it from you. Maria's fingers found their position and she began to play. But she didn't play the Chopin piece from the viral video. That felt too safe, too expected. Instead, her hands moved into something else entirely. Rachmaninoff, the Prelude in G minor. It was harder, much harder than the Chopin. It was dramatic and powerful and required technical skills that she wasn't even sure she still had. But she needed to prove something. Not to Volkov, not to the cameras, to herself. The first notes rang out, deep and commanding. Maria's fingers moved across the keys, finding the rhythm, building the intensity. The piece started quietly, mysteriously, then exploded into powerful chords that filled the entire hall. Her hands flew across the keyboard, stretching for difficult intervals, navigating complex passages that she had learned decades ago. She made mistakes. A note came out harsh in one section. Her timing wavered slightly in another, but she pushed through, pouring everything she had into the music. All the years of cleaning floors, all the nights she fell asleep exhausted, all the dreams she had buried. Everything went into those keys. The piece built to its dramatic climax, her hands pounding out the intense chords, the sound so powerful it seemed to shake the walls. Then it softened, became gentle again before the final resolving notes. When Maria lifted her hands from the keys, the silence in the hall was absolute. She didn't want to look up. She didn't want to see their faces. She had probably made a fool of herself, playing a piece that was beyond her current abilities. Then she heard footsteps on the stage. Slow, deliberate footsteps. She looked up and saw Volkov walking toward her. His face had completely changed. The cold, skeptical expression was gone. His eyes were shining with something that looked like tears. He stopped in front of the piano bench, and when he spoke, his voice was soft and thick with emotion. "Where did you study?" Maria blinked, surprised by the question. "In Manila, the Philippine High School for the Arts, but I didn't finish. My family needed money and I had to work instead." Volkov nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something he already suspected. "Why did you stop playing?" "Life," Maria said simply. "I had to survive. I had to help my parents. Then I came here to America, and there was always something more important than music. Bills to pay, children to feed. There was no time for dreams anymore." Volkov was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the room. He sat down on the stage floor, right there in his expensive suit, and looked up at Maria with an expression of complete openness. "My mother was like you," he said quietly. "She cleaned buildings in Moscow, office buildings, train stations, anywhere that would hire her. But before that, before life became hard, she played violin. She was very talented. When I was young, sometimes late at night, she would take out her old violin and play, just for a few minutes. Then she would put it away and go back to being a cleaning lady." His voice cracked slightly. "She worked so I could study music. She cleaned toilets so I could attend the conservatory. Every award I have won, every concert I have performed, it was built on her sacrifice. She died before she could see me become successful. She never got to play violin again, not really. Not the way she deserved." Volkov stood up and looked directly at Maria. The coldness was completely gone from his face now. "When I watched your video, I saw my mother. I saw what she might have been if life had been different. I came here today not to judge you, but because I needed to know if you were real, if the music I heard came from your heart." He paused and a small smile crossed his face. "It does, you are real. And you play with more soul than half the technically perfect musicians I know." Maria felt tears running down her cheeks. She hadn't expected this. Hadn't expected him to understand. Volkov turned to address the cameras and the assembled crowd. "I am scheduled to perform here next week. A full concert. Sold out." He looked back at Maria. "You will perform with me, not as some curiosity, not as a viral video moment, as a fellow musician, as someone who deserves to be on this stage." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Rosa was crying in her seat. Miguel was pumping his fist in the air. Even some of the reporters were wiping their eyes. But Maria just sat frozen at the piano bench, unable to process what was happening. Perform in a real concert? With Alexander Volkov? It was impossible. It was crazy. It was everything she had stopped letting herself dream about 20 years ago. Volkov extended his hand to her. "We have 1 week to prepare. It will be difficult work. I will push you hard. But I believe you can do this. The question is, do you believe it? Maria looked at his outstretched hand. She thought about her mother back in Manila, who had sacrificed so much for her education. She thought about Rosa watching with hope in her eyes. She thought about that younger version of herself, the girl who had loved music more than anything in the world. She reached out and took his hand. Yes, she said, her voice stronger now. I believe it. The next morning, Maria woke up at 5 a.m. out of habit. For a confused moment, she thought she needed to get ready for her cleaning shift. Then everything came rushing back. The meeting, Volkov, the promise to perform. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. What had she agreed to? A real concert, in front of hundreds of people. In just 1 week, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. This is Alexander. Practice begins at 9 a.m. Do not be late. Maria stared at the message. Alexander Volkov had her phone number. He was texting her. This was really happening. She got dressed in a daze, barely tasting her breakfast. Rosa kept chattering excitedly about how many people were talking about her mom online, but Maria could barely hear her. All she could think about was the piano. Could she really do this? It had been so long. One good performance didn't mean she was ready for an actual concert. When she arrived at Steinway Hall at 8:45, Volkov was already there, sitting at the piano on stage. He looked up as she climbed the steps, his expression serious. You are early. Good. We have much work to do. He stood up and gestured for her to sit. Play something, anything. I need to understand where you are technically. Maria's hands trembled as she sat down. She chose a simple Bach prelude, something she felt confident about. She made it halfway through before Volkov held up his hand. Stop. Her heart sank. She had messed up already, but Volkov's face wasn't angry. He moved closer, looking at her hands. Your technique? It is self-taught, yes? You have natural talent, but there are habits that will hurt you. The way you hold your wrist here, it will cause pain during longer pieces. And your fingers, they are too flat. We need to fix this. For the next 3 hours, Volkov worked with Maria on the most basic elements of piano playing: hand position, posture, breathing, things she thought she knew but realized she had forgotten or never learned properly in the first place. It was humbling and exhausting. Her back ached. Her fingers hurt. But Volkov never let up. Again, he kept saying. Again. Better, but not good enough yet. Again. By noon, Maria was ready to cry from frustration. She had played the same 2 measures of music at least 50 times. Volkov finally stepped back. Enough for today, rest. Tomorrow we start learning the piece you will perform. What piece? Maria asked. Debussy. Clair de Lune, do you know it? Maria nodded. She knew it. Everyone knew it. It was one of the most beautiful piano pieces ever written. It was also delicate and emotional, requiring perfect control and feeling. It is appropriate for you, Volkov said. It is about moonlight, about dreams, about beautiful things we can only see in darkness. That is your story, yes? You played in the dark when no one was watching. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. He understood. The next 6 days were the hardest of Maria's life. Every morning at 9 a.m. she arrived at the concert hall. Volkov would already be there, coffee in hand, ready to work. They practiced for hours, breaking only for lunch. He was demanding but never cruel. When she got something wrong, he explained it patiently. When she got something right, he simply nodded and moved on to the next challenge. The concert is not about playing perfectly, he told her on the 3rd day. When she broke down crying after making the same mistake repeatedly, it is about connection. The audience needs to feel what you feel. Technical perfection is worthless without soul. You have the soul already. We're just cleaning up the edges. The concert hall staff watched their rehearsals with quiet respect. Even the manager stopped treating Maria like an employee and started treating her like a performer. They brought her coffee without being asked. They made sure the stage temperature was comfortable. Small gestures that showed they saw her differently now, but the pressure kept building. The concert was completely sold out. More than that, it was being live-streamed. Thousands of people would be watching online. The media was calling it the event of the season. Classical music stations were talking about nothing else. Everyone wanted to see if the viral cleaning lady could actually perform. On the 5th day, Volkov introduced something new. We will end the concert together. A duet. Maria's eyes widened. A duet? I can't. I'm not ready for that. You will be. He pulled out sheet music. Mozart, Sonata for 2 pianos in D major. This is challenging, but it is joyful. It celebrates partnership. Two musicians who come from different places but create something beautiful together. They started learning it, and Maria quickly realized how different it was to play with someone else. She had to listen constantly, adjusting her tempo to match his, making sure their hands didn't collide as they reached for the same sections of the keyboard. It required trust and communication in a way that solo playing didn't. Volkov was patient, but she could tell he was pushing them both. He wanted this to be special. On the 6th day, just 2 days before the concert, Maria hit a wall. Nothing was working. Her fingers felt clumsy. She kept losing her place in the music. The pressure was crushing her. She finally stopped playing and put her face in her hands. I can't do this. I'm going to embarrass you. Embarrass myself. This was a mistake. Volkov sat down next to her on the piano bench. He was quiet for a long moment. Do you know why I really wanted to meet you? He finally said. The video, yes, it was impressive. But that is not why. I wanted to meet you because you reminded me that music is not about concert halls and awards and critics. It is about the moment when you sit down at an instrument and forget everything else. You had that moment. I saw it in the video. You were not playing for anyone. You were playing because you had to, because the music needed to come out. He looked at her seriously. That is what I want you to bring to the stage. Not perfection, not technical brilliance, just that pure moment of connection with the music. If you can do that, nothing else matters. Maria wiped her eyes. What if I mess up? What if I forget the notes in front of everyone? Then you mess up. Volkov shrugged. So what? I have forgotten notes. Every pianist has. The audience does not care about that. They care about the journey you take them on. They care about feeling something real. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, running through the music in her mind over and over. Rosa came and sat on the edge of her bed. Mom, why are you so scared? Because everyone is watching. Everyone is expecting something amazing. What if I disappoint them? Rosa squeezed her hand. Mom, you've been disappointing yourself for 20 years by not playing. Now you finally get to stop doing that. Who cares what anyone else thinks? Maria looked at her daughter, surprised by her wisdom. You taught me that, Rosa continued. You always said to do things because they matter to you, not because of what other people think. So why is this different? Maria pulled her daughter into a hug, fighting back tears. When had Rosa gotten so smart? The day before the concert, Volkov called an early end to their rehearsal. No more practice. Rest your hands. Rest your mind. Tomorrow is not about preparation anymore. It is about trust. Trust yourself. Trust the music. Trust that you belong on that stage. As Maria left the concert hall that afternoon, she paused at the doorway and looked back at the stage. Tomorrow night, she would walk out there in front of hundreds of people. The girl who had given up her dreams 20 years ago would finally get to live them, even if just for one night. She thought about all the cleaning shifts she had worked on that stage. All the times she had mopped around the piano wishing she could touch it. All the nights she had walked home tired and achy, dreaming of a different life. Tomorrow, that different life would finally happen. She just had to be brave enough to reach for it. That night, Maria laid out the dress the concert hall had provided for her. It was beautiful, deep blue silk that shimmered in the light. Tomorrow she would wear it instead of her cleaning uniform. Tomorrow she would be Maria the pianist instead of Maria the cleaning lady. She barely slept, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from anticipation. The sun couldn't rise fast enough. The morning of the concert, Maria woke up before her alarm. Her stomach was doing flips. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Her eyes looked different, brighter somehow, more alive than they had been in years. Rosa made her mom's favorite breakfast, pancit, but Maria could barely eat 2 bites. Her daughter didn't push her. She just sat across the table smiling like she knew a wonderful secret. Whatever happens tonight, I'm proud of you, Rosa said quietly. Maria reached across and squeezed her hand. I'm scared. Good. That means it matters. By 4 p.m., Maria was at the concert hall. The backstage area was buzzing with activity. Sound technicians tested equipment. Lighting designers adjusted spotlights. Concert staff rushed around with clipboards and headsets. In the middle of all this controlled chaos, Maria felt small and out of place. Volkov found her standing in the hallway, looking lost. Come, we do a quick sound check. Then you rest in your dressing room. I have a dressing room? Maria couldn't believe it, of course. You are a performer tonight. The sound check was surreal. Walking onto the empty stage, sitting at the piano with technicians calling out instructions about volume and acoustics. Maria played a few scales, some chords, a snippet of Clair de Lune. Her hands felt strange, like they belonged to someone else. Good, Volkov said from somewhere in the darkness of the auditorium. The piano sounds perfect. Now go rest. I will see you at 7:30. The dressing room had Maria's name on a card attached to the door. Inside, her blue dress hung on a rack. There were flowers on the table from people she didn't even know wishing her luck. She sat down in front of the mirror, surrounded by lights, and just stared at her reflection. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Miguel, the security guard who had recorded that first video, poked his head in. Hey, just wanted to say good luck. You got this, Miguel. Maria stood up quickly. Thank you. For everything. If you hadn't posted that video. He grinned. Best decision I ever made. You deserve this, Maria. We all knew you were special. Now everyone else knows too. After he left, Maria sat in silence for a long time. She thought about her mother back in the Philippines, who had scraped together money for her music lessons. She thought about her father, who had been so disappointed when she had to quit school to work. She thought about every dream she had buried to survive. At 7 p.m., someone knocked again. Half hour to curtain. Maria's hands shook as she changed into the blue dress. It fit perfectly, flowing around her like water. She barely recognized herself. A makeup artist came by to help with stage makeup, explaining that the bright lights would wash her out otherwise. By 7:25, Maria was standing in the wings of the stage, listening to the audience filing into their seats. The sound was like ocean waves, hundreds of voices blending together. She peeked through the curtain and felt dizzy. Every seat was filled. People were even standing in the back. Volkov appeared beside her, already dressed in his performance tuxedo. He looked calm, completely at ease. How do you do this? Maria whispered. How do you not feel terrified? I am always terrified, he admitted. Every single time. But I learned to transform the fear into energy. The nervousness means your body is preparing to do something important. Use it. The stage manager gave them a 5-minute warning. Maria's breathing was too fast. Her heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could probably hear it. This was a mistake. She wasn't ready. She was going to walk out there and freeze, and everyone would see that she was just a cleaning lady, pretending to be something she wasn't. Maria. Volkov's voice cut through her panic. Look at me. She met his eyes. You have already done the hardest part. You already picked up your dream after 20 years. Walking on that stage is easy compared to that. Remember why you played that night. Play for that reason again. The house lights dimmed. The audience quieted. The announcer's voice came through the speakers, introducing the evening's program. Maria heard her own name and felt like she might faint. Then Volkov was walking onto the stage, the audience applauding as he took his place at the piano. He would perform first, his own solo pieces, before Maria's moment came. Maria watched from the wings as he played. Even terrified, even with her stomach in knots, she couldn't help but be moved by his performance. He was brilliant, his fingers flying across the keys, drawing emotion from the instrument that seemed impossible. The audience was completely silent, entranced. When he finished his set, the applause was thunderous. He stood, bowed, then walked off stage. As he passed Maria, he touched her shoulder gently. Your turn. Show them who you are. The announcer's voice filled the hall again. And now a very special performance. Please welcome Maria Santos. This was it. Maria stepped out onto the stage and the applause hit her like a wave. The lights were so bright she couldn't see individual faces, just a blur of people. So many people. All here to see if she was real or just a viral moment. She walked to the piano bench and sat down. Her hands found their position on the keys. For a moment she couldn't remember how to start. Her mind went completely blank. Then she closed her eyes and thought about that night. Alone in the dark. Just her and the music. Nothing else mattered. She began to play Clair de Lune. The opening notes were soft, gentle, like moonlight touching water. Maria forgot about the audience. She forgot about the cameras. She forgot about her fear. There was only the music flowing through her fingers like it had been waiting all these years to come out. The piece built slowly, each phrase like a wave. She poured everything into it. Every cleaning shift she had worked. Every dream she had buried. Every moment she had looked at a piano and wished things were different. It all went into those keys. She wasn't playing perfectly. She knew that. There were small technical errors that Volkov would have corrected in rehearsal. But those didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the feeling, the connection, the story she was telling through Debussy's notes. The piece moved through its emotional landscape. Peaceful, then yearning, then peaceful again. Maria's fingers danced through the cascading notes, the melody singing above the accompaniment. She could feel tears on her cheeks but didn't wipe them away. Let them fall. This was honest. This was real. The final notes faded away slowly, disappearing into silence. For a moment, nothing happened. The hall was completely quiet. Then the audience exploded. People jumped to their feet, applauding and cheering. The sound was overwhelming, washing over Maria like a storm. She opened her eyes and saw them. Hundreds of people standing and clapping. Some were crying. Many were smiling. They weren't judging her. They were celebrating with her. Maria stood and bowed, her legs shaking. She couldn't stop crying now. 20 years of buried dreams were pouring out of her in this moment. Then Volkov was walking back onto the stage and the audience roared even louder. He sat at the second piano that had been moved into position. Maria took her place at her piano. They looked at each other and he nodded. Together they began the Mozart duet. Playing with Volkov was different than playing alone. She had to listen constantly, matching her tempo to his, responding to his musical choices. They moved together through the joyful, playful piece, their hands sometimes crossing, the two pianos having a musical conversation. There was a moment in the middle where Maria caught Volkov's eye and they both smiled. She realized this was fun. Despite everything, despite the pressure in the audience and the cameras, she was actually having fun making music with someone who understood. The piece built to its triumphant ending, both pianos ringing out together in perfect harmony. The final chord hung in the air, then silence, then applause that seemed like it would never end. Maria and Volkov stood together, bowing to the audience. He took her hand and raised it high like a champion. The audience cheered louder. Someone threw flowers onto the stage. Others followed. Soon the stage was covered in roses and carnations. Backstage after the concert, Maria was surrounded by people. Reporters asking questions, well-wishers offering congratulations. Someone from a recording label handed her a business card. A music school director asked if she would consider teaching. Through it all, Rosa pushed through the crowd and threw her arms around her mother. They both cried, holding each other tight. Later, after most people had left, Maria found herself back on the empty stage. She sat at the piano one more time, running her fingers over the keys gently. Volkov walked out from the wings. "You did well," he said simply. "Thank you. For everything. For believing in me when no one else did." "I did not make you talented," Volkov said. "I only helped you remember what was already there." He pulled out his phone and showed her something. A news article. He had announced the creation of a scholarship fund in her name. Money for adult musicians who had given up their dreams because of financial hardship. A way for others like her to find their way back to music. "Your story matters," Volkov said. "Not just because you can play. Because you show people that it is never too late. That dreams do not die just because we stop paying attention to them." 6 months later, Maria released her first album. It was recorded in Steinway Hall, the same stage where she used to push a mop. The album sold well, but more importantly, it inspired people. Letters poured in from around the world. Other cleaning ladies and janitors and ordinary people who had given up their dreams. Many of them were picking up their instruments again, encouraged by Maria's story. Maria still cleaned sometimes, not because she had to, but because she wanted to remember where she came from. She would arrive at Steinway Hall early before teaching her students, and she would dust the piano with the same care she always had. The viral video that started it all had been viewed over 100 million times now. But the numbers didn't matter to Maria. What mattered was that she had found her way back to music. She had found herself again, and every time she sat at a piano, whether in a concert hall or her own small apartment, she remembered that night. Alone in the darkness, playing for no one but herself. That was when the magic happened. That was when she learned that some dreams never truly die. They just wait in the quiet places until we're ready to hear them again.